Hi, my name is the actor, but you may call me Jefferson. And today, we have a theory video, a Five Nights at Freddy's theory video. I'm glad I picked a relatively simple topic for my first theory video. But anyway, before we begin, I do want to define some terms. So, the title of this video is called 5 Laps in the Flipside. I don't really think there's a canon explanation for what the Flipside is, so I'll give my interpretation and how I used it in this theory before we begin, just like a little dictionary here at the start. I personally interpret the Flipside to be a sort of plane connected to the physical realm, but not quite, and I don't believe it's the afterlife either. I believe that primarily souls or spirits inhabit it, but I don't believe it's the afterlife. I believe it's this like spirit plane that's connected to the physical one, but is like on the flip side of reality, literally. And I also believe it's multiversally independent. That will be important later. One last note before we begin. This is just a theory, so if you hate my interpretations of any of this, then you're more than welcome to leave your disagreements in the comments. Do I have to explain what 5 Laps at Freddy's is? I assume if you clicked on the video, you know what 5 Laps at Freddy's is at least. It's a kart racing game made by ClickTame. I think it was supposed to release in the anniversary cycle, but then it got delayed. It has Charlie 87 evidence in it, which every time I think about Charlie 87 for too long, I think about making toast in my bathtub. 5 Laps at Freddy's features your traditional kart racing gameplay. Multiple tracks, multiple playable racers, and lore. Okay, maybe that last one's not as common. When Mario Kart World released, I didn't see many videos popping up about analyzing the socio-economic, political relationships between all the different tracks, but somebody will make that video one day, or they need to. But 5 Laps does have lore in it, most consequentially portraying William Afton as the mustard man from Midnight Motorist. Although Green Afton will always be true in my heart. Now, some of these features are also found in FNAF World and UCN. This is, I don't remember if I left it in this take or not, but this is what I meant by the evidence is shaky. Both FNAF World and UCN feature multiple different playable characters or toggleable enemies, different maps, and a mixture of diegetic and non-diegetic lore. Personally, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So, the death lines in UCN, I view those to be diegetic. Those are things being told to William Afton as he experiences death over and over and over again. A victim that cannot perish. But I don't think the Bear of Vengeance cutscenes and Toy Cheeky the high school years are things William Afton has seen. I think those are purely for the player's benefit, but I think I still think they're built out of materials that are there, and we'll get to it, I swear. I would say most of the lore in FNAF World is diegetic. FNAF World? Did I say FNAF 4? I meant FNAF World. I would say most of it is diegetic. Probably the only non-diegetic lore we get is the achievement being unlocked in FNAF World when you play the Old Man Consequences thing in UCN, but because of Steve Snodgrass, that could also be diegetic. I'm not the biggest fan of Steve Snodgrass. FNAF World also features characters not seen elsewhere in the franchise, some referencing or directly coming from Scott's older games, such as Chipper and Sons, and I think there's a character or two in FNAF World from The Desolate Hope. If you're a based FNAF multiverse enjoyer, like myself, this actually doesn't complicate things at all. The flip side could be static, or outside of any one universe. It could be multiversally independent, allowing for different characters to inhabit it. So you could have So I want to clarify something. I don't know if you were thinking this, but I just thought of it, and I want to clarify that this is not what I mean. I don't think Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy in FNAF World, I don't think that's Gabriel, Fritz, Jeremy, and Susie. I just think that those could be memory imprints of the MCI, but I mainly think that those are... I think they already existed in the Flipside is what I'm saying. Now, I will contradict that later with my interpretation of OMC, which might make some people mad, but we'll get there. While we're here, I actually want to talk about Old Man Consequences and my defense of Andrew OMC. This was supposed to be a 5-laps video, but I'm going to do 5 leaps of logic for this Andrew OMC theory. So, if there are multiple universes, and there is, the vengeful spirit doesn't have to be the same character every time. In the Fred's universe, it's Andrew. You know? And in the mainline, and then in the games universe, in the mainline games universe, and in the mainline games universe, it's Cassidy. And I will not be taking questions. One time, I started writing a fanfiction where Charlie was the vengeful spirit, and Elizabeth was the bite victim. It was to Elizabeth, and it was doomed to Yuri. Because I saw too many edits on TikTok, gotcha edits, of course, and they were all so angsty and sad, and I was inspired. In the Man in Room 1280, we have evidence to suggest that there was no Flipside involved. We don't really have much evidence to suggest that Flipside is involved in UCN either, but like I said, my interpretation. But in Frights, Andrew was torturing Afton in his brain. We're not getting into FNAF World being shaped like a brain. I'm not. So, it is possible that after the Stitch with Stingers conclude and Andrew moves on, is released from... when Andrew is released from the Stitch Wraith, he could have went to the Flipside. This is what I was told by the Google AI overview that forces itself to the top of a research result. So I'm going to assume it's true. And could there be a possibility where after he's released from the Stitch Wraith, he ends up at a red lake at the bottom of the Flipside? The 4th layer down, I think. It's possible. And he meets a red bear. A red bear of vengeance, maybe. And he looks at Cassidy and he says, hey, don't obsess over vengeance like I did. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Leave the demon to his demons like I did. And Cassidy says, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Now, Princess Quest. I know what you're thinking. Princess Quest. I don't got any answer for you, man. I don't know. The only answer to Old Man Consequences and Princess Quest, if Andrew OMC is true, which I don't even know if I believe fully, I just wanted to find a way to make it work. The only answer for Old Man Consequences in Princess Quest and Andrew being OMC in the Flipside is that they're just different old men consequences, and I don't really find that satisfying. I don't know. I do have a lot of theories about the princess and Cassidy and Vanessa and Glitch Trap and all that, but we need to get back on topic. Now, 5 Laps at Freddy's, much like FNAF World, also features characters not seen elsewhere in the franchise. Towards the end of the 5 Laps at Freddy's trailer, we see what seems to be a mini-boss? I don't know what's up with that, called Night Shift, unless I am grossly misinterpreting what I saw, but I saw a gray wolf, write that down, I saw a gray wolf fly toward the screen, and then 3 red bars appeared at the top of the screen, and it said night shift. So I'm going to call the animatronic night shift. It also jump scared you, which I also don't think is all that common in kart racers, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I've heard people scream pretty loud when the blue shells come out. Now, this wolf also bears a resemblance to a wolf seen in Toy Chick at the high school years. What does that mean? I don't got anything for you, man. But it can be used as a similarity point. See, I don't like calling any of this evidence, but I will call it similarity points, okay? And so far, we have, like, what, a couple? All I'm saying is that if 5 Laps at Freddy's does officially come out, and we meet Old Man Consequences at any point, I'm going to be so insufferable. Because I have no right being right about this. But I would be so happy if I am. I skipped this entire page. I put it up here and I flipped to the back because none of these 3 paragraphs were even worth writing. I started to talk about Fazburger. Do you like Fazburger? 14 pickles, please. Another interesting similarity point is during some of the gameplay I've seen, it seems that on certain tracks I've only seen people do. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've only seen people play the Midnight Motors track because that's all people ever upload. Halfway through it, everything turns color, some of the textures change, and it seems to me like you're shifting layers, like you would in FNAF World, and I've seen some people draw comparisons to that and Ruin, when Cassie puts on the Vanny mask, and I think it's like virtual augmented neural network. Imagine Dragons or something. Now, I know what you're thinking. Man, all his evidence so far is so superficial. A 4-year-old could do this better. You know what? I'm certain that a couple-month-old kitten could do better than this. Yeah, you think so? Alright. Alright, tell him what you think. He ran away. That kitten's name was Michael. I named him after Michael Afton, which is strange because I don't like Michael Afton. He has 2 siblings. I named them Charlie and Elizabeth, which probably not the best idea. But let's revisit that Midnight Motorist level for a second. In Midnight Motorist, we have a full recreation of everything. Is that fan too loud? The dirt mound, the juniors location, and more. I gotta say something, okay? This will be the last tangent about Midnight Motors. I wrote this rant into the script because I cared about it so much. I think people interpret Midnight Motors a little bit too literally, okay? Oh, the area that William's speeding away from is specifically 4 screens worth of max speed away from the area that his house is in. And not only that, his house is in this fucking wood spot, and there's this bar called Junior's, like, hopping a skip away, and there's no other anything around. Now, I also believe the house is out in the wilderness by itself. I want to be clear. We know now that it's more than likely Murray's house post Sigurd the Mimic because of Fazburger. But I do want to say that they'll interpret everything like, oh, the clearing with the dirt and Junior's, and oh, there's all this shit right here, and Freddy's is 4 states away, and I don't think any of these minigames have ever been depicted one-to-one in a literal sense. Take Cake to Children. That is a one-room building, apparently, with no equipment. It is just a box. No kitchen. The FNAF 4 house, not the gameplay house, but the minigame house. There are 2 rooms. The bite victims, and a girl's room. I think there's a door in the living room, but that's probably, that's only one extra room. Where does Michael sleep? The couch? I mean, how old is Michael in FNAF 4? Because it could be assumed that he doesn't live there anymore, and his room was given to Elizabeth's. But some people say Michael Afton was 12 in FNAF 4? Look, I'm not a time link MMer. Like, I don't think every screen of Midnight Motorist is a different point in the timeline. But at least that is probably closer to the truth than interpreting everything as gospel. There is one point of counter evidence that I would like to bring up in regards to this 5 laps in the Flipside theory. I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. It's not really counter evidence though, so you could call me biased by picking this one. I think at one point in the trailer, which I would love to show you the trailer, but remember the thing I said a while ago about toasters? I'm making this video on Share Factory. Now, if we revisit the trailer, there seems to be a bit where the game turns off and revealed to be played, and it is revealed that we are playing it on an old arcade cabinet, or maybe a new arcade cabinet, but it is being played on an arcade cabinet nonetheless. A 3D arcade cabinet on top of that. But I view this as actually strength for the Flipside theory, through another theory that I'm piggybacking off of called arcade theory. I'm sure you know what arcade theory is. Basically, throughout the franchise, we see these arcade cabinets that seem to be altered or influenced by spirits. I don't believe the spirits are doing this intentionally. Like, I don't think... We'll take Fruity Maze, for example. I don't think Susie went over to Fruity Maze and was like, oh, let me directly put my history into this. Now, what could have happened with Fruity Maze is, since it's captured the memory Susie had when William told her, hey, your dog's not dead, he's over here, silly. That could be something where Susie was sad about her dog, so her agony bled into the machine. But a lot of times when people hear agony, infection, they, at least in my experience, they ascribe agency to it, when emotions doing shit by accident is the most common thing in ghost lore there is. When I originally connected these dots, and I do fully believe that 5 Laps of Freddy's is in the Flipside, or at least it's on an in-universe arcade, so it's potential to be connected to the Flipside. But when I originally did this, I myself was ascribing too much agency to it. I said, well, if this is a Flipside space, kind of like some afterlives have neighborhoods. Once again, I don't believe the Flipside is the afterlife, but it was the closest analogy I had. Some afterlife stories have neighborhoods that all the souls are gathered into. If this is somebody's Flipside space, whose, I no longer think that, primarily because we don't have any more characters. Editing Jefferson here. I want to clarify again. What I meant by personal Flipside space is that the bite victim has FNAF World, and Cassidy and William have UCN. Susie technically has Fruity Maze, even though, like I said, I don't believe that her attachment to the Fruity Maze arcade console is quite as strong. But that's all I meant by, like, personal Flipside space. Like, and I don't even think that Cassidy or the bite victim created these areas. I think that what we see in FNAF World, that area already existed, animatronica. It was already there. So I wanted to come on here and add that little clarifying note. I forgot the Midnight Motors part. This guy's losing his mind. Midnight Motors, everything is captured and recreated in detail. Now I know what you're saying. Okay, FNAF 6 is an in-universe game, and of course they would know about this and that, and any in-universe developer would know about Junior's the mound of dirt because they played FNAF 6. I'm gonna drink bleach if you keep this up. Once again, I will say it. I hate Steve Snodgrass. I don't know, maybe in a few years I'll write a fan fiction about a little boy named Sherman Lyons, and he dies in Roxy Raceway, and he wants to race forever for eternity, and that's how I manifest whatever. I don't know. This is why I don't deal with canon, because you find something that could be exciting, or you find something that could be like, oh, this ties it up in a little bow. What's the evidence? Nothing. It's so boring and self-defeating. This is why I write fan fiction, because I get to make it up. Interestingly enough, I have tried making it up, and I still can't solve Midnight Motorist. Thank God Cassie wasn't shown to have an interest in racing, and if she did, I forgot, because we still don't know if she survived that elevator crash or not. But, you know, if Arnold can survive everything he went through, then... You know, that's another thing that's disappointed by canon. I have strong evidence for Secret of the Mimic being a time loop, but none of the evidence works in the canon timeline. None of it. It only works in my timeline, my AU, where I shifted everything around, and Secret of the Mimic takes place after FNAF 6, because I'm not fucking insane. Hi. I forgot to record this part earlier when I was actually doing the video together. I was just editing, and I realized that I didn't do this part. So I'm playing Thief Simulator, and I'm going to attempt to finish out this video while doing this. So throughout this video, I did a good job covering the why. So why I think 5 Laps of Freddy's is a Flipside game. I don't think all the evidence is all that bulletproof, but I like it, and I think I made a strong enough case. Oh, there's a cop that way. I see it on the minimap. So what does it mean if 5 Laps of Freddy's is a Flipside game or an in-universe game that has the potentiality to be altered or influenced by the Flipside? Nothing. Is that if I'm right, and 5 Laps of Freddy's is connected through the Flipside, and the Midnight Motors level is being impacted or influenced by some stuff, or if we do get confirmation, or if the Grey Wolf is connected in any way to the Grey Wolf we see in Ultimate Custom Night, that doesn't really say anything on its own. So, but on the other side of that, if I'm wrong and 5 Laps of Freddy's is not part of the Flipside, well, it doesn't deconfirm any of the lore it gave us. The answers that it gave us about Midnight Motorists can still hold true, whether or not it is a in-universe game or part of the Flipside or whatever. Oh yeah, see, with this house, I gotta get up into that room right there. But I don't have a mini electric lockpick, and I think those cost a lot. You guys like what I did with my car? Oh yeah, if you're watching this and you think, oh, I'd like to play this game, don't buy it on PlayStation. I have some other theories I'd like to make one day about the Flipside, primarily whether or not you can access the Flipside through a certain ball pit, but that will mean that, but doing that video means I'll have to get into my thoughts about the field and Frights as a whole, and I really don't want to have to get into that. Yeah, a mini electric lockpick is $1,200. I have 309. I know where I can get some stuff. I do have 2 more Five Nights at Freddy's videos planned. So, if you think that would be something you're interested in, stick around for. One of them is a rant, and the other one is an actual theory. This one wasn't so much a theory. It was more just like my headcanon. But the next, well, I showed my work at certain points. But my next video, my next 2 Five Nights at Freddy's videos, like I said, one is a rant and one is a theory. The rant will probably come out next. Not the very next video I do, but the next video in the Five Nights at Freddy's series. It's a rant on Fright's fiction and why I believe it is mid. I'm going the wrong direction. But yeah, let me know what you think of this theory or this headcanon in the comments. If you liked it, like the video. If you disliked it, there is a dislike button. And I'll see you in the next one.